Hi class, let's start chapter 4. Okay, in this chapter what we're going to talk about mostly about the role of the government and the role of the Canadian government in business in general. Now the learning objective here is we're going to list the 7 categories of government activities that can affect the business. We're also going to trace the historical role of the government in the Canadian economy and understand why the crown corporations that owned by government were created. We will demonstrate why understanding the law or laws and regulation at all level of government is critical to business success. Now, furthermore, we're going to talk about Bank of Canada or central bank and describe how the Bank of Canada influence the monetary policies, explain how taxation and financial policy affect the Canadian economy, describe how government expenditure benefit consumers and businesses alike, illustrate how the purchasing policies and service assist Canadian businesses. Now, government affects the business. That's definitely clear, and we're fully aware everywhere. Government activity that affect businesses may be divided into 6 categories. Now, there's some government has less, trying to have less effect. Some of them has extreme effect. There is different type of government. But there is the Canadian government, how they affect the businesses by having a crown corporation, laws and regulation, having Bank of Canada, doing taxation and financial policies, government expenditures, purchasing policies, and services that they provide also. Government involvement in the economy. Canada was formed in 1967, and the federal government was giving the power to regulate the trade and commerce. Special efforts were needed to unify Canada once the Western provinces joined the Confederation. Now, Canada, a small population, is spread across the country, which is most of which is near the border. So from east to west, but is near the border, not less upper and upper. So the trading patterns are, usually is a north-south between Canada and the States. And national policy was developed to protect Canadian manufacturing by implementing high tariffs. So it's not easy to import in that time. The government built an east-west railways to unite the country and to do a transportation. It's a very effective railway connecting the east and west. We don't see it a lot, but it is there, very active and very important to unite this country. So here what you call a crown corporation. A crown corporation is companies that are owned by the federal or provincial government. Keep in mind, crown corporation in Canada has a certain philosophy that things that is not very profitable, they make it as a crown corporation because they want to provide best service possible. If you give it in the hand of the private, they might not be able to deliver as well as the service that the crown corporation can do because the private sector is into business to maximize the profit. So they don't really put so much effort if the profit is very low or none. So that's the reason we have a crown corporation, one of the reasons. But overall, they are set up to provide service that were not being provided by the businesses. bail out major industries in troubles, provide special services not otherwise available, like Bank of Canada. And most electric power companies are owned by the provincial crown corporation here, by the way. You probably want to look at these. These are samples of a crown corporation, Canada Pension Plan, Canadian Commercial Corporation, Public Sector Pension Investment Board, Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. These are Canada Post. These are Crown Corporation, Export Development Canada, which is a very works in a crucial in an important export of Canadian goods and services. The role of government continued to reduce its role in the economy by selling government-owned assets, such as Air Canada, we know that as Canadian National Railways. So once something becomes a profitable, it is okay to sell it because there is better service comes in from private. Now, what's a privatization? Is the process of a government selling crown corporation. Then what we have also a deregulations, which is government withdrawal of certain laws like protections, high fees and tariffs, and regulation that seems to hinder the competition and a better market competition. So we have what you call a laws and regulation. Federal government responsibilities that, on the top, it's a federal, provincial, and, in the federal government is like doing the trade regulation, interprovincials, or international trade. Incorporations of federal companies like, crown corporations, taxation, both direct and indirect, that's their laws, the rules and regulation responsibility. The banking and the monetary system, they are responsible. Hospital insurance and the Medicare, the public debt and properties, national defense, unemployment, immigration, it's a federal, except the probably Quebec, the criminal laws and fisheries. Quebec has a different laws for immigration. Some major federal consumer protection laws. You can check on these and further investigate on it. Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act. There is what you call Canadian Agricultural Product Standards Act. There is Consumer Packaging and Labeling Act. There is a Food and Drugs Act, which has covered the whole range of regulation pertaining to qualities, testing, approval, packaging, and labeling. Hazard Products Act covers all the hazard products. Textile Labeling Act, and we have Weight and Measure Act applies to all equipment that measure quantity, such as a scale, gas pump, and so forth. Then we have what you call the marketing board. The marketing board is organization that control the supply or the pricing of certain agricultural products, like the wheat we have here, pretty much under government corporation. Therefore, they may control the trade also. Now, the marketing board promotes stabilities, on the other hand, in volatile areas of economy, such as farming. So we need, some kind of sometimes of protections because it's a volatile market like farming. Weather, disease, uncoordinated decision, sometimes worldwide, and market power of large corporations create sometimes unstable price and supply for the both farmer and consumers. So you need a marketing board to protect the small farmers or the farmers and consumers in this field. Then you have, for example, the Canadian Dairy Commissions, that the egg farmers of Canada and the chicken farmers of Canada are examples of marketing board that control the production of a product by assessing quotas and controlling the prices. One level lower, you have a federal government, and now you have also a provincial government, which is province of Ontario, province of Manitoba, province of Saskatchewan, province of Quebec. Each one has its own government also on the lower level. But what's their job? Basically, provincial government responsibilities include like a regulation of provincial trade and commerce for the, the province, natural resources with their boundaries, direct taxation for provincial purposes. So you have usually there is two type of tax, in Manitoba, PST and GST. GST stands for government tax taxation, PST provincial. Here we have HCT or HST and GST. Then we have the incorporations of provincial cover companies. They do licensing for revenue purposes, administration of justice on a provincial level, and you have interprovincial is run by RCMP, but on a provincial level by the provincial government. Municipalities affairs, property law, labor law, and education. They do have, each province has its own responsibility to run their own education. So if you graduate at the high school in the old days in Ontario, is usually 13 years. When you go to Manitoba, they don't accept it as a 12 years, not even 11 years, unfortunately. And that was because each one had its own regulation. Now, I think it's all similar when it comes to high school and under. Now, what you have further, on a smaller scale, is municipal government responsibility. So there is a Durham, here, there is a municipal, there is the Toronto area on an area level. Municipal are set up by the provincial legislators. So the provincial would set them up. It's just that the federal setting up or supporting the provincial will be municipal. So the municipalities are set up by the provincial legislation. Municipalities offer some services in partnership with the private sector sometimes and other level of the government. Regulation and law concerns consumer protection, zoning requirement, business regulation on that municipal, like a licensing, taxation also, and essential and other services they can provide as a part of the municipal government responsibilities. Now we come to a free trade between provinces. We know about the NAFTA and the free trade between Canada and USA and Mexico and probably Chile, but there is a free trade between the provinces of the law. The trade between the provinces in a $300 billion industry in Canada, by the way, is a huge. Some trade barriers exist until now, created to protect the provincial economies, protect the environment, for example, and establish workplace standards. And these barriers might be done by the province or federal, as depend. These trade barriers usually limit the movement of workers in such area as healthcare, financial, legal service, engineering, and teaching. But what they do, they usually try to put you in writing exams, certain bar exams, it's very difficult to do it. Anyway, the agreement of internal trade, or AIT, was an interprovincial agreement created to reduce these barriers. Now we come to Bank of Canada. Bank of Canada is, in other words, the central bank. Other countries they call it. So the Bank of Canada is a federal corporation, is a Canada's central bank. It is a bank for all banks in Canada. They're not for the customers, it's a bank for other banks. As a financial institution, it provides banking service on behalf of the federal government. However, it does not offer banking services to the public. So that's a big difference. They manage the monetary policy, is the management of the money supplies and interest, rates, to manage the business, the booming, the recession of the country with the amount of money supply and interest rate. The money supply is the amount of money that Bank of Canada makes available for people to the banks and banks to buy goods and services, to trade goods and services, in other words. When it comes to the taxation, taxes is a revenue, comes in like a revenue, income, and properties are used by the government to pay for the service, pay down the debt, and fund government operations and programs same time. Then you have sin taxes or social insurance, I believe sin taxes are used to discourage sin taxes, not social insurance, sin taxes are used to discourage taxpayers from using certain product like a cigarette and alcohol. They call it sin tax. Then you have what you call tax credit are giving to companies to encourage the growth. So when you establish in your business in Canada, you need to look at these kind of loopholes like tax credit, tax deferred, and probably if you're taking in advanced accounting, you might be aware of these. So all the business pay various taxes, a cost of doing business in Canada, which are passed sometimes, most of the time, passed on to the consumer in the form of higher prices. The average Canadian family, as you notice, is they pay over 42.5% taxes, and the rest you can see clothing, others, food. But these taxes goes to many services that we are enjoying in Canada. And take a look at this, try to understand how the economy works in Canada. Stabilizing the economy through fiscal policy. We heard there is a monetary policy which is run by Bank of Canada and it's on behalf of the government. And then you have the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is about the federal government efforts to keep the economy stable by increasing and decreasing taxes or government spending, not by supplying more or less money and interest rate. That's Bank of Canada. Here is the fiscal policy by decreasing or increasing taxes and government spending. So what's a deficit? It's occurred when the government spends over and above the amount it gathers in taxes over a specific time period, namely a fiscal year. So if you're a country and you spend more than you get, and you know that you might be paying it later on, this is what you call a deficit. Now then there's what you call a national debt. This is what it becomes a loan that you need to pay interest on it and pay, the basic ones also. The national debt is the accumulation of a government surplus or deficit over time. So deficit in certain year, debt is over time. Today, the debts, national debt or Canada's debt total more than $630 billion. The surplus is an excess of revenue over expenditure. $637 billion. It's not a lot, by the way, compared to other countries' national debt. For example, USA, I think it reached to $2 trillion, something in that or more. Anyway, the federal budget. Federal budget is a comprehensive report that reveals government financial policies and priorities for the coming year. The financial minister stands in the parliament and delivers a speech about the financial policies and what's coming in year. It shows how much revenue the government expects to collect, any changes in income and other taxes, and whether a deficit or surplus is expected. This gets updated. The accountant, the lawyers, and business people gets updated on these matters when they are announcing it. Monetary policy, on the other hand, is a management of money supply and the interest rate. You take all these details in the economy, economics, macroeconomics. It is controlled by the Bank of Canada, in this case. Raising and lowering the interest rate are meant to help to control the business cycles. Now, when we talk about government expenditure or spending or expenditure, which is belong what's a federal expenditures, what's a provincial, and what's municipal government distribute tons of billions of dollars towards such services, like financial aid assistance to business, including grant, loans, loan guarantees, and subsidies. That's what the government gives to businesses. Equalization, which is a program transferring payment or direct between payment from the government to other government or to individual. Some provinces have a less income, so there is some kind of transfer between federal takes it and give it to other provinces to kind of equality. Equalization, a federal government program from reducing the fiscal disparities among the provinces, as we said. Some provinces are poorer than other provinces, so they try to equalization. Then what we have is called a purchasing policies. A government is very large here. Purchaser, very large purchaser also, and consumers of a good and services in general. Government attempts where possible to favor a local business in their purchasing policies. So they rather to buy from the local business, thus creating a trade barriers between provinces. Now, when the advanced technology items comes in, or whether the military or civilian are purchased from foreigner companies, which they do also, the government usually insists that a portion of these items to be manufactured in Canada, or the other country or the other company will buy back some stuff from Canada. This creates jobs and helps the company acquire a new technology. When it comes to the service, Industry Canada offers a variety of programs to help businesses, as you know, get started and to promote businesses internationally. The National Research Council supports the research and technologies in such as aerospace, biotechnology, engineering, and construction. There's also fundamental science, information and communication technology, and manufacturing. Thus belong under the umbrella of National Service Council. And then you have the Department of Foreign Affairs, do the trade and development offers support to those businesses wishing to trade and invest internationally. So if you are involved in the future in the kind of investment internationally or trade, you might start knocking the doors, understanding how the Department of Foreign Affairs or Export Development Bank can help you in this matters. Some government sources available, please look at them to assess the Canadian business. Where you have the BDC or the Business Development Bank, very good organization. Well, it helps a lot of the businesses, especially small to medium. Then you have the Canadian Business Network, and you have the Export Development Canada, can help so much in setting up your export. And then what you have, we said, the National Research Council. See their mission, understand their background, so it can help you in the future to do business if you wish to. Some final thoughts. An industrial policy is a comprehensive, coordinated government plan to guide and revitalize the economy. Many policies advisors are opposed to more government involvement, preferring more privatization. So if you notice, conservative, they want to go on the extreme privatization, liberal average, NDP into a less privatization. As you know, they will all do different policy. The federal government will continue to promote international trade because that's a major income. Environmental policies may also impact the future trade. You have to look after that. And each level of government is focused on creating a competitive environment for a business and all businesses of all sizes, by the way. So in summary, there is, we said, 7 categories of government activities that affect the business are Crown Corporation. We talked about the law and regulation, the Bank of Canada. We spoke about taxation and financial policies and the government expenditure, plus the purchasing policies and services. Then we talked about the Crown Corporation provided services not provided by the businesses in general, bail out industries in troubles, and also provide special services. We also visited the business need to understand the law and regulation that affect them. We spoke about Bank of Canada, which is, we said, it's a central bank, and it's a federal Crown Corporation, it is a Central Bank of Canada. Its role is to promote the economics and financial well-being of Canada. Spoke about taxes, which is taxes are collected by all levels of government to fund a social program and services. Business benefits because the government provide subsidies, support research and development, and generally help the business to be competitive. Government spending helps the consumer by displaying funding for such things as social services, job creation, health, and education. Purchasing policies benefit the business because the preference is given to the local firms. That's the end of chapter 4. Thank you.